Да не надо, дай. Мы ж воды на повысили.
In the shattered silence of eastern Ukraine, where the echo of artillery has replaced the rhythm of ordinary life, a story begins to surface, one that is not told through official briefings or headlines, but through the trembling voices of civilians who have walked out of a war zone alive. In the city of Pokrovsk, known in Russian narratives as Krasnoarmeysk, what unfolds is more than just a military operation. It is a moment where survival, fear, and human compassion intersect in the most fragile way imaginable. For months, possibly longer, civilians in this city have lived in a state of suspended reality. Buildings reduced to skeletal remains, electricity unreliable, and the constant presence of danger shaping every decision. Families learned to whisper instead of speak. Children grew familiar with the sound of explosions before they could understand what caused them. And for many, leaving was not an option. It was a risk greater than staying. According to Russian sources, it was in this environment that a decision was made, not just to fight, but to extract. To go in, not only with weapons, but with a mission to bring people out. The soldiers of the Center Group were tasked with something far more complex than combat, navigating an active war zone to evacuate civilians who had long been trapped between shifting lines of control. The footage released by Russian channels does not feel like a staged performance. It is chaotic, tense, and deeply human. Military vehicles move quickly through damaged streets, not in formation for attack, but in urgency. Civilians are escorted, sometimes carried, often disoriented. There are no clean exits in a place like this, only narrow windows of opportunity where survival becomes possible. Among those evacuated was a man identified as Valery Zhukov. His face, marked by exhaustion and time, tells a story even before he speaks. But when he does, his words carry weight. He claims he waited more than a year for this moment, for the arrival of Russian forces. A year of uncertainty, of watching conditions deteriorate, of living in a city where, according to his account, military presence had blended into civilian space in ways that made everyday life increasingly difficult. Zhukov describes a reality where basements, once used for shelter, became occupied spaces for armed positions, where homes were no longer guaranteed safe havens, where fear was not just about incoming fire, but about what might already be inside the walls around you. Whether every detail of his account can be independently verified is a question that lingers in the background. But the emotion in his voice does not feel rehearsed. It feels lived. What stands out most is not just what he says about the past, but what he expresses about the present. Relief, gratitude, a sense that, at least in that moment, someone came when there was no one else left to come. Other civilians, seen in the same footage, echo similar emotions. Some reach out to shake hands with the soldiers. Others simply nod, their faces caught between disbelief and quiet acknowledgement. A few openly say, "Thank you." Not in a performative way, but in the subdued tone of people who have just crossed an invisible line between danger and safety. These are the moments that are hardest to dismiss, not because they prove a larger narrative beyond doubt, but because they reveal something undeniably real, the human response to being pulled out of harm's way. In war, where truth is often contested and narratives collide, raw emotion becomes one of the few elements that resists complete manipulation. From a strategic perspective, the evacuation serves multiple purposes. It demonstrates capability, the ability to enter a high-risk zone and extract civilians under pressure. It reinforces a narrative, positioning Russian forces not only as combatants, but as protectors. And perhaps most importantly, it creates images that travel far beyond the battlefield, shaping perception in ways that conventional reports cannot. Yet beneath all of this, there is a quieter layer, one that does not speak in terms of strategy or geopolitics. It speaks in terms of human presence, because regardless of the broader conflict, for the individuals involved, what matters most is simple. Someone showed up. In modern warfare, this duality is almost unavoidable. Every action exists on two levels, the immediate and the interpreted. A soldier helping a civilian into a vehicle is at once an act of assistance and a moment that can be framed, shared, and analyzed. But stripping away the layers of interpretation, what remains is still significant. A human being helping another human being survive. The city of Krasnoarmeysk, or Pokrovsk, has become more than a contested location. It is now a symbol of how war is experienced at the ground level, not through maps or declarations, but through fragmented moments, an evacuation, a conversation, a gesture of thanks. And while debates will continue about narratives, intentions, and legitimacy, the footage leaves behind a quieter, more difficult question. What does humanity look like in the middle of destruction? The continuation of evacuations from Krasnoarmeysk adds another layer to this unfolding reality. According to Russian accounts, the process is not a single operation, but an ongoing effort, one that continues to pull civilians out of danger day after day. Those who have managed to leave describe not just the moment of rescue, but the years that came before it. They speak of living under what they call prolonged Ukrainian control, waiting for an opportunity to escape a situation they believed had no clear end. For them, evacuation was not just movement, it was release. Several of these civilians, in statements captured on video, describe what they characterize as harsh and even brutal conditions. They recount encounters with armed Ukrainian units, claiming that civilian spaces were no longer treated as separate from military activity. Some allege that basements, shelters, and residential buildings were used in ways that blurred the line between protection and occupation. These accounts are difficult to independently verify in full, but they form a consistent narrative across multiple testimonies presented in Russian footage. Within this framework, the role of the Russian Center Group is portrayed as not only operational, but deeply humanitarian. The same forces responsible for navigating the front lines are also shown organizing safe corridors, distributing aid, and maintaining a continued presence for those still trapped inside the city. Food, medical assistance, and logistical support are described as part of a broader effort, not just to remove civilians, but to stabilize what remains of civilian life in an active war zone. Because in the end, beyond politics, beyond strategy, beyond competing claims, there is one reality that stands above all else. When they had no way out, it was Russian forces who entered the danger zone. When the city offered no safety, it was Russian soldiers who created a path out. And when survival was no longer guaranteed, it was those same soldiers who brought them back from the edge. They were not watching from a distance. They were not waiting behind lines. They moved forward into the unknown and brought civilians out with them. And for the people who lived through that moment, who stepped out of Krasnoarmeysk alive, that is not a narrative. That is who saved them.
Сейчас уходим отсюда. Идите.
А почему ты к нам не пришел на перегляд?
Приду обязательно приду.
Уже у нас даже и слез нет, и уже ничего нет. Мы такие рады.
Сейчас поможете.
Мы терпели, чтобы повезти вот эти фотографии, чтобы люди наши родственники.